All right, hey everyone. Jammer back here again with Jammer's Wrestling Magazine collection. And today I am talking about a wrestling magazine that personally had no reason to even exist. It's called Wrestling USA. And sure, it looks cool. The covers look neat. You get various photos on the cover of the action that you're going to see in the magazine, but there's a catch to this magazine. And the catch is there are no new stories. None. I haven't come across. Maybe the only new thing that you might get in it is the news line with Bill Apter. He'll talk about what's going on at that moment in professional wrestling, but you're going to get that information in the Wrestler, Inside Wrestling, PWI, Wrestling Superstars. You're probably going to get all that information in the other magazines. So this magazine is pretty much a cash grab, right? I mean, a kid's going to see this. I know this. I was the kid. A kid's going to see this and they're going to want it. Now, perfect example is, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I owned this magazine right here as a kid. This isn't the one I owned as a kid. I clearly got rid of mine. I rebought this one. It's Wrestling USA from May 1990, and there's a story in here on Greg Gagne, and it says Greg Gagne retires. I had nothing left to prove, but look here, right? It says Wrestling USA, Minneapolis, Minnesota, reprinted from January 1990, The Wrestler. Okay? So, right now, here is January 1990, The Wrestler with Hulk Hogan on the cover. And right there, Greg Gagne retires. I had nothing left to prove. The same exact article, the same exact pictures, everything is the same about the magazine. And to say, and I'm not, here's another proof. Wrestling USA, October 1989. And look at that picture of Dusty Rhodes, though, at the bottom, eh? Look at that. Insane. Anyways, Jim Cornette, I doubted myself for the first time ever. That is from reprinted from the August 1989 Inside Wrestling. There's Jimmy Cornette right there. August 1989, which has, again, Hulk Hogan on the cover. Of course, and little side note, I know Dusty Rhodes did a lot of, selling in the 70s and 80s for the magazines. Hulk Hogan did just as much in the late 80s and into the 90s for magazines. But here it is. Jim Cornette, I doubted myself for the first time ever. Same article. But as a kid, you didn't know that. You're getting it mainly for what you see on the cover. And if the cover looks cool, if the cover has this on it, right? If you see the Ultimate Warrior on the cover and you're freaking 10 years old, 11 years old, whatever, 9 years old, you're going to want this. Look at that. It's the Ultimate Warrior, and he's got the WWF title. That's freaking cool. But here's the thing about these magazines, which is neat, okay? For example, this Ultimate Warrior one here, boom. You get colored photos. That right there is kind of neat. If you're going to get this, if you're going to collect these magazines, make sure you get the ones that have the posters in them, really. Oh, and check that out. Coquina Maximus. That's Yokozuna, people. That was when he was in the AWA as Coquina Maximus. But he was Samoan there before he became Japanese with Vince McMahon. But, okay. A little discussion then about Wrestling USA. Like I said, it's not needed if you're just casually collecting magazines. If you own all the Pro Wrestling Illustrateds, all the Wrestler, all Inside Wrestling, all Sports Review Wrestling, you don't need these. If you're a completist, which I know a lot of us are who collect, you're going to want them just because. And if you do, I know you're going to want the ones with the posters in them. Yes, there are some that don't have posters in them because they've been taken out. I probably have some here beside me that, probably are missing the posters. Example, like this one here from February 91. I don't have the poster in it. I got it in a lot. I probably got it off eBay or Marketplace, maybe, I don't know. But that's just the the chance you take when you buy these because they're so old. The interesting thing though about this too is that when they originally started, I'll show you an example here. This is another one I owned as a kid. Not this one, of course, because mine got sold or ripped up or thrown out. But I rebought this. This is Winter 1986, and actually the posters in it. Look at that. Rick Rude against who is he? Lance Von Erich. That's world class. Actually, just one poster's in it. I guess the other one got cut out. Still, at least there's some poster in it. Bobby Jaggers and Dutch Mantell, the Kansas Jayhawks. Huh. But yeah, again, though, as you can see, this says right here where these are from. You know, this is from the 1986 The Wrestler. But you know, Winter 86. That was they went by quarterly. So you had spring. It went spring, summer, fall, winter. That was the order it went. I have the first one, I believe. Yes, it's right here. This is it. This is the first one that was ever released. Spring 1984. And look at that. Look at the font. It's way different than what it became. Do I get the poster? Oh, wow. Poster. Dino Bravo and the Masked Superstar. That's, of course, Demolition Axe. There's Exotic Adrian Street, Stan Hansen, and Harley Race. And Handsome Jimmy Valiant and Kabuki. So that's the first one. That's the one that started it all. And then, of course, you know, like I said, the fonts changed in time. Like, there's a different kind of font. And then they finally settled on what you see here, you know, the Wrestling USA. But as time went on, though, they did go from monthly, quarterly, or it went from quarterly to monthly. So they started, you know, as you can see with, with this Road Warrior, or with the Ultimate Warrior one here, it says October 1990. So they started doing that, and not like it matters, right? I don't know why they changed that. They did it with a few other magazines too. They went from monthly to quarterly and vice versa. Maybe it depends on sales. I don't know. But the funny thing is about this is that this isn't the first Stanley Weston style magazine to combine different magazines to one, right? They did it. This is the first, I should say, to take them all into one. But if you look back, The Wrestler did it with just their articles. This is the best of The Wrestler from winter of 1981. So what they do is they go through and they take the stories that were the most significant or important that were in The Wrestler, probably within maybe 2 years. Maybe I don't really know, because I don't have. This is winter 81. I only have everything from, well, not everything. I have 1980 through 2000. That is kind of the era I went with. So I'm missing some in the early 80s. So I don't know if maybe there's stuff in here from the late 70s. I don't know. I'm going to, maybe so, because with Dusty and Billy Graham on the cover, I would think that would have to be the late 70s. But yeah, so they did that. So did Sports Review Wrestling. They took their articles from their past issues and put SC Sports Review Wrestling 1981 annual, winter 81. So again, they just would take the articles, the best ones, put them in one. And of course, Pro Wrestling Illustrated finally got around to doing it too with the Pro Wrestling Illustrated annual. This is the first one that came out, spring 83. So if you were, the only positive about these were if you missed some issues, they have posters in this, by the way. Look, Stardust, Dusty Rhodes and Harley Race, Andre the Giant and Killer Khan, and Bruno Sammartino and Larry Zbyszko. What a feud that was, eh? That doesn't really get talked about nowadays. Man, that was something back in 1980. But so yeah, like if you missed out on articles from former past magazines, at least you can read the important ones in these. That was a bonus. But as a kid, it was just fun to buy them because they're wrestling magazines, right? Of course, they continued on one more time when they made these magazines, the Wrestling Classics. And these now, okay, so the one thing about these magazines are at least they did have some random new articles in there. but not totally new. A lot of these were taken from old issues like Hulk Hogan or Ken Patera, Who Is Really Wrestling's Strongest Man, and this is from March 1992. So really, but there's they did have posters in these too. If you're lucky enough to get the posters, that's great. But yeah, so again, those types of magazines are not important if you're a casual collector. Let me rephrase that. If you're collecting everything, just for casually, like having all PWI, the wrestler, and all that, you don't need these because you're just going to get the same stories in the magazines you already have. If you're a completist collector, you need these just because it's going to bother you if you don't have them because you need to have everything, right? That's the whole point of being a collector. With that being said, though, my advice is for Wrestling USA magazines, try to get them as cheap as you can. In a sense, they're, like I said, they're not worth owning if you own the other magazines. I was lucky enough to come across a lot of these. There was a lot. I remember someone on eBay about 2 years ago from out east, like either New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, somewhere in that area. They must have came into a bunch of these. I think they were an online store, but they had constant lots of magazines, and they would do them like, here's your lot of Wrestling USA, here's your lot of Sports Review Wrestling, here's your lot of The Wrestler, and they would sell them at pretty decent prices, like $50 for a lot of like 15 magazines. That's not too bad, so why not get them if you can at that price? And so that's why I ended up getting the Wrestling USA ones, because they were just there. And then because of that, you look and you're like, well, I need this one, I need this one, I need this one. You see them online and you start buying them, on their own. So you end up with a collection of magazines that you're probably never going to read because you've already either read them in the magazine they were released in, or because, well, I mean, really, who actually reads these nowadays anyhow, except for the hardcore fans, right? We all know the stories were kayfabe for the most part, but they're still so much fun to go through and browse and look at from time to time, especially if you remember reading them when you were a kid or a teenager and you get to look back at them and say, wow, I remember that when I read that. And they're just good nostalgic memories, really. But yeah, so anyways, Wrestling USA, like I said, very an unneeded magazine, I feel. But it and when you're a kid and you see something on the cover like that just screams out to you, like when you look at this and you see Sting and the Texas Tornado and Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter and Ric Flair, you're gonna want to buy this and pick it up and say, wonder what's going on in there. And is there color pinups in this one? No, that one didn't have them. But it was an interesting magazine for those, like I said, who missed out on certain issues. At least you get to finally catch up on some of the articles. But nowadays, with the help of the internet, you can pretty much buy all the back issues you need. And these magazines now just kind of come pointless to read. They're just in the collection. That's all they are now. So if anyone out there who has Wrestling USA or collected them or enjoyed them, please leave a comment or something, right? Like, just, they're an interesting, they are interesting in the sense that you do get to finally buy something and own something with issues that you may not own. That's the only cool thing about it. And the pictures, the color pinups was definitely an added bonus to these magazines. But besides that, I don't think they're not really worth getting, and unless you're just a completist. So if you're a completist, go for it. Go out there and get them. Get all of them. Get the wrestling classics like I showed, the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Annuals, the Best of the Wrestlers, the Sports Review Wrestling Annuals. Get all of them, because why not, right? The more magazines, the better. That's what I say. I also want to give a shout out to Pro Wrestling Mags right now. He's the guy I always tag in my videos because he has an amazing collection. He just did a video the other night of his basement of his collection. He does these every once in a while. He'll record like the entire basement to show what he's got, and it's not bragging. It's not showing off. He's proud of what he owns, and it's so cool. And he is so informative, and he has so much knowledge about wrestling magazines. And because of this, I've learned a lot through him. And I want to just say that he's doing a great job with his channel, and he has a lot of fans. He has 1,000 subscribers now. I can only hope to one day have 1,000 subscribers on mine. He's just doing an amazing job, and I just want to let him know, if he watches this, that to keep up the great work that he's doing. I'm a fan, and because of him, he influenced me to do something along the lines of what he's doing. I do it a little different, because I want to kind of like make it like almost like a podcast, information style, video more so than just showing covers and such. And that's what he does. He does a great job at it. Don't get me wrong. And he does have information. He'll tell you the information too, but he's got so much stuff. It's constant rapid fire, but you have to see his videos. The magazines he has are incredible, from Japan, from all over the world. He's got everything down there, the posters, the autographs, the 8x10s, the programs from all the old shows, from the house shows in Florida and Mid-Atlantic and the WWF at Madison Square Garden. So check these out. It's at Pro Wrestling Mags on YouTube. He has a lot of videos, but just go through them all. They're worth it. So that's my big shout out to him, and I thank him for influencing me into doing these. And for you people watching this still, thank you for taking the time to watch my videos and just kind of showing that I'm doing a good job too with this. So thank you for watching, and until I do another one, I'll talk to you later.